It looks like DICE is changing the TTK in Battlefield 5. TTK stands for Time to Kill, and the studio has spent a lot of time talking about it over the last few months as we got closer to launch, really emphasising the rework that's taken place to the gunplay system to completely transform it from how it was in Battlefield 1 for this brand new title. It's been built from the ground up to be intuitive, but in a style that players of Battlefield 3 will likely remember, and hopefully enjoy. Battlefield 3 for me was the pinnacle of gunplay in the series, in the games that I've played, and I have to say at the moment I'm really enjoying how the gunplay feels and works in Battlefield 5, but that could be all about to change. Now, before I go on, I do want to say that I'm by no means an expert on gunplay in the Battlefield franchise, and really here I'm just expressing my opinion, but it's all purely based on my experience that I've had with Battlefield 5 since the early access launch on November the 9th. There are other people out there that will probably disagree with me, that's absolutely fine, and I encourage you to put your opinions down below in the comments section today. One of the major ambitions that DICE spoke about before the launch of Battlefield 5 was being able to learn and master weapons in this game. To do this, DICE built an entire system based on readability. If a player knows how the weapon they're holding is going to perform when they fire it, they can be in greater control when entering gunfights against other players. Your skill with that weapon should directly determine the chance of you winning that gunfight. If you've unlocked a weapon for the first time or haven't used it very much, chances are you'll enter gunfights against other players who do have greater understanding than you of their own weapon, and they will probably kill you. But over time, as you learn how the weapon behaves when it comes to recoil, you should be able to take control and have an upper hand in gunfights. The more you practice, the better you become. And this ties in with the new movement system that's implemented into the game. If you know roughly how many bullets it will take to kill somebody at a certain range with a certain gun, you can use the movement system to your advantage to pull away as soon as you've gotten the kill, or take cover immediately if you aren't in the right position to take on the gunfight. As I said, the entire system is based on knowing your weapon's strengths and weaknesses, mastering them, and then using them in gunfights. Gone is random bullet deviation from the point of aim, which you had no control over in Battlefield 1. And gone, almost, is spread, which again was something would deviate your aim from where you were pointing and take control away from you in a gunfight. What DICE currently has in Battlefield 5 is much more raw. It's a very powerful gunplay system than what we've had in previous titles. And while that does increase the skill ceiling and leave the door open for top level players to do really well, equally it makes the system really easy to pick up. There aren't invisible mechanics like spread and random bullet deviation stopping a brand new player from pointing at an enemy, shooting, and doing some damage. That's exactly how things should be. The time to kill in Battlefield 5 is lethal. It's shorter than previous titles and matches closely to Battlefield 3 values. Since the closed alpha, it's been a point of debate, and I think now, just after launch, players in general are happy with where it sits. There are some tweaks I feel might need to be made, such as giving the medics slightly more power at close to medium range, and that potentially shortens the TTK for SMGs, and there are a few outlying weapons that might need to be brought back into balance, but for the most part, I think we're in a good place. The bullet damage for Battlefield 5 was designed with two things in mind, allowing for 1v2 situations to be won by a skilled player flanking an enemy team, and second, making sure the damage output of the fastest and slowest firing weapons was as large as possible, and that's to make sure that all weapons have variety. Right now, I'd say both of those objectives are being achieved, especially the first one. Battlefield 1 made it very difficult to flank enemy teams and be aggressive on those flanks without being taken down, which if you manage to stealthily sneak up on a bunch of enemies, that play should then be rewarded with a gunplay system that allows you to kill a few enemies. However, it looks as if DICE might be about to completely change the TTK just a few weeks after the early access launch and very soon after the standard edition launch, which is the version that most players will pick up. This tweet here from Florian Le Bihan, a core gameplay designer at DICE Stockholm, and one of the devs who worked to produce the new gunplay system that we're currently using in Battlefield 5, makes it clear that TTK changes are being made. No detail is given, but if we look at the lethal, fast TTK that we have in Battlefield 5 right now, I think it's very clear which way things are likely to go. The TTK will be increased, reducing the effectiveness of the weapons in the game at the moment. Increasing the TTK will reduce a player's ability to win 1v2 situations when flanking or surprising enemy players, because the enemy will have a longer amount of time to react, and the difference between high and low rate of fire weapons will be skewed to favour high rate of fire weapons, as they can pump out their lower amount of damage that little bit faster. In making a change like this, assuming that's what DICE is planning to do, DICE is essentially undoing all the work they've done with Battlefield 5 to produce a gunplay system that is intuitive, easy to pick up, and harder to master. Increasing the TTK will also have an effect on gameplay speed, reducing player movement because positioning becomes far more important. If you have to spend more time shooting somebody, there is then a bigger window of opportunity for another enemy to turn around and join in the fight. That increases the amount of time you have to spend fighting and reducing player movement across the map. This could lead to more players bunching up together in larger groups fighting others, or moving in large groups for safety. This is an issue that plagued Battlefield 1. It's called zerging, and it was a problem for over a year until DICE introduced a complete overhaul to the time to kill, shortening it and making things better. We currently have a short TTK in Battlefield 5, but it seems it's about to get longer. The mention I made of the potential timing of this change is very significant as well, so soon after the launch of the game. At the moment, most players of Battlefield 5 are still learning the game, they're still experiencing new things for the first time, and they aren't at a point where they're fully comfortable with the new gunplay system in general. That creates skewed data. So to change the TTK so soon after launch would not only be bad because it would likely be based on skewed data, but also bad because players are in the middle of a transition period from the previous game, Battlefield 1's time to kill, to Battlefield 5's. Changing it now in the middle of learning it and asking everyone to start again would, I'm sure, annoy quite a lot of people. I'd be a little bit upset if I'm honest. All you need to do is look at the Battlefield 5 Reddit page to see how many people would be upset and angry at a change like this. There were 10 posts on the front page of it the other day, most of them having over 1,000 upvotes asking DICE not to change the TTK. And their reasoning is based on the fact that they like the current TTK and they don't want to see it changed. Now, part of the new live service approach for Battlefield 5 was clearer communication. In this case, a tweet got highlighted, opinions formed, my own included, and now people are forming conclusions as well. It's clear a decision has been made at DICE to change the TTK, and the communication of that hasn't reached the community in a clear, effective way. Considering how close this decision to change the TTK is to the launch of the game, I'd be surprised if this wasn't something that had been worked on since the early access launch. And if that's the case, then would it not have been better to consult the community about it before moving forward with a change as important as this one? Maybe. And in fact, you can actually see DICE making some attempts to get opinions about the TTK not that long after the early access release. David Serland here set up a poll asking players to vote on their feelings about the TTK and the TTD. TTD is time to death, and I'll talk about that in a second. However, the graph here shows the results. 46% voted that the time to kill was fine, but the time to death was too short and it needed looking at. And a further 22% said that both the time to kill and the time to death was absolutely fine. 68% of players that answered said that the time to kill was fine. A clear majority. Yet we now know DICE is going to be changing the time to kill in the next patch. Something doesn't quite add up here. And briefly on the time to death. This is the amount of time it takes you to go from 100 health, or whatever your health value is, to 0. And right now, it might be bugged. The poll that I just showed you was in part to get feedback from players about the time to death being too short, and DICE got their answer. 46% of people, the majority vote in the poll, said it was too short. DICE knows there's an issue, but they don't know what the cause is. That's confirmed here by another tweet from David Serland. This entire scenario means that you die much faster than you anticipate, but it's not even by design, it's a bug. Therefore, to increase the time to kill would simply mask the underlying issue of the time to death being bugged, papering over the cracks, so to speak. Increasing the time to kill means you have more time to react to being shot, thus increasing the time to death. But not fixing the bug that has made the time to death so short in the first place. Something doesn't add up here, and I think DICE is making the wrong decision. Wrapping things up here, in my opinion, this TTK update, if DICE goes ahead with it, and again, we're assuming here that they are extending the time to kill, making it longer, is going to make the game worse, and is going to completely demolish all the work that has gone into making arguably the best gunplay system since Battlefield 3. DICE, I'm asking you directly, please could you not touch the time to kill in Battlefield 5? Please, could you instead leave the current setup as it is and allow the team time to try and work out that time to death bug, and then collect more data that will likely be true, accurate and untouched, and then maybe have a look at the TTK afterwards. At the moment, this seems like a massive knee-jerk reaction, and I can almost certainly say it's going to piss off players, which is the last thing you need after the worst marketing campaign for a Battlefield game that we've seen in years. Please, don't touch the TTK. Just leave it alone. Thanks very much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. My name's Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.